So another foundering car, and today I just put some gasoline into my car, which is now the price being lowered because the government has deducted the 17 euro cents additional tax that they normally charge temporarily. So that gives a little bit of air to still fuel the economy, so to say. But this is also something that is not going to last. So it's just a part-time solution, which does not solve any problems. It does help you, because otherwise the economy will stagnate even more. But this is not the end all be all answer, of course. So what does it tell you as an entrepreneur? You should take this benefit, of course, and just embrace it. But on the other hand, you should also think how you can make some gains for the future, because in the future this will come back again, and then you will have to deal with it regardless. And also the money that they are now saving us, the government will get back somewhere else, because they want to fill in the blanks that they made. So either way, you will pay. Hope this short burst will help. I'm not saying we're not thankful that this is there, but please keep this into consideration. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Foundering car, out. So another foundering car, and today we will discuss investment strategies. So I will give you an illustration. A friend of mine said he wanted to invest, and he asked me if self-storage, self-storage units was a good idea. I said it was a very good idea, because you have very little maintenance and you have a steady flow of income, and it's easy to achieve, so you don't have to invest an enormous sum to get started. So that was the thing. But then I asked him, what do you really want? Do you need the money? When do you want to take the money out again? What's your exit strategy? And then he said, just want something to have my money invested in and have as much pleasure out of it as I want. And then I asked a little bit more, and he said that he also wanted to have a second home somewhere, or at least access to a second home, because he wanted to be there at least once a month, because he got a new grandchild on the way, and therefore he wanted to intensify his visits there. He already had a second home in France, but now he wanted a second home in the UK. And when you talk it through, then things become different. If you want steady cash flow with little time wasted, and you want to have an exit strategy for buy and hold strategy, that you'll have that for a long period of time, and you're not that much concerned about additional benefits, additional perks at this time, so just the easy access to an additional income, this is a good deal. But this guy was already retired. So I said, do you really need additional cash flow at this moment? And he did not. That's, in my opinion, and also his opinion, when you talk it through together, it's far more interesting to do something that he's doing now, and instead of wasting money and hiring a second living place in the UK. You could be better off buying something there, and today you have something that you can benefit already, adds pleasure to your life. But also, if in the future you or your heirs are selling it, you can still get that increase in valuation. But that would be a far better investment when you take that strategy into consideration. So also to you, it depends a lot in your exit strategy. What do you want? What's your end game in this phase? And what do you need now? And if that is different, you should not be worrying at all that you can have both fun now and still have the benefit in the later time frames. And that's what we did. another founder in car, and today we will discuss what COVID has brought us. So of course, in my opinion, COVID brought a lot of pain and suffering and economic downfall, but we are not going to discuss that in this session. We will discuss what it has brought us, because it also brought something. And what it brought us is that we reconsidered how we could better have a balance, that we don't have to travel that much. We can also do a lot from home. That's a benefit, because now we are still reaping the benefits of this hybrid style of working. We don't have to visit abroad that much, because we can also do a lot with Zoom and Teams. It's more accepted. That's the benefit. It's not so much that the technology was not there before, because it was, but it has matured now, and also the mindset of the majority has tilted towards the direction that this is new normal for a while. And that benefit also benefits us now, especially if you're working in the ICT or something else, that you don't have to be locally present. Now you can have that without all the resistance that they want to see you there. And perhaps you want to have a traveling lifestyle, a modern day gypsy. You can also do that. If you have internet, you can still work and see a lot of the world and do your work. So you have both income and the traveling combined, and the cost can also be really low, because especially if you drive a mobile home type of solution, a caravan, a camper, or even some people live in their cars, which I would not recommend, but it's very cost effective, of course, even more so than all the others, and also easier to park, because a lot of parking space have restrictions on height or length. Very hard to find a parking spot, but with a regular car this is not a problem, of course. So if that suits you, that could be beneficial to you as well. You could then see your car not only as a car, but as a mobile office space. That could be the future. So that is a very interesting thing that it has learned us, and also, in my opinion, it has re-stimulated my mind even more, that you don't want to be that dependable or that dependent. You want to be that dependable, of course, but don't want to be that dependent on just one way. Because, for example, if you have one product and a product is completely shut down due to COVID, for example, you have zero income, but you still have the debts that you have to pay off, etc., etc. This is not a thing that you would benefit from. When everything goes well, that one product can give you a lot of focus strategy, which is helpful, but it's always nice that you have additional things next to it, and especially additional things that are completely different. In investment, they call that the portfolio management, that you have a wide portfolio of different assets that are not dependent upon each other. So if one asset block is dropping, not all other blocks are dropping as well. So that's something to take into consideration as well, and that has learned me a lot. It's not that I was unaware of it, but once you live it and once you experience it, things that you know in your mind also come closer to your heart, because you not only have the rational, but you also experience what it does to you on an emotional, on a visceral level. And that's, in my opinion, a very good lesson that we have learned. And another lesson that I want to stress is that in normal life you thought that the normal conversations and that you really can hug someone or visit someone whenever you wanted, that was so normal. But now you can cherish that even more, all those moments, because you know that it can be very different again in the future. Or some other disease can come, a new virus can rise, and then you can have a similar situation as well. But that's also a thing that it has learned me. I hope this helps you. Wishing you all the good health that we can wish upon each other, because we are only humans, we cannot decide anything, of course. But I wish you well, of course, and also I hope that this message resonates a little bit with you, from a positive side. Foundering car? Out. So this Foundering car series is really nice because I can display a little bit of my entrepreneurship, but also my passion for cars, and try to give you life lessons that I have learned myself, but also from the business sense, some tips and tricks, and also my love for cars. So it's a nice triangle of passions, and I'm passionate about people, I'm passionate about business, but I'm driving also always as much pleasure as I can, or at least what is relevant for this situation, and because also situation can differ in time. So sometimes some performance cars are very accessible and therefore also very interesting to drive, and it could be in a later stage in your life that things differ, and I will come back to that specific topic now in the next video or now. So what am I on about? It's a Foundering car series, and I mentioned in my last video that sometimes there is a period in your life when performance cars are very accessible, and then you should really go for it, and in other time frames it could be a little bit different. It's not that you don't have the passion for performance anymore, but for example the rules can be a lot different, that the maximum speed can be reduced significantly, which is the case in the Netherlands. So instead of 120, 130, there's now the new standard of 100 km an hour top speed on the highways. Only on some the situation this is different. For example, at a very early time in the day or a very late time of the day, this can alter again, which is beneficial. So then the 100 km an hour restriction is then lifted, and then you have 120, 130 kilometers an hour again. So that's the beneficial part. But what I'm telling, in the past, if you had 120, 130 km an hour on average, then a car with more performance, of course, pays out a lot more than when you have 100 km an hour. There's no car, unless you're referring to the Twizy, or for example, as a car which is restricted at 80 km an hour at the top level, that cannot reach 100 km an hour, so you don't need that anymore. Of course, performance is always nice, but also if you have so much restrictions and you don't want to lose your license, of course, if you go over the top, then you will be at peril. I can say you that. So many cars that can easily double that 100 km an hour with two fingers behind, two fingers in the nose, as they say in the Netherlands, or both hands or one hand behind the back. So performance is not that important anymore in that sense, but you still can have the benefits of performance. You have better brakes, better road holding. You can also, if necessary, flee from peril, from danger. So there are benefits that are regardless of the restrictions, of course, because those are specific situations that are very rare, but can occur, of course. But also the thing is there, if all the cars are becoming faster and faster, while the restrictions are increasing and increasing, cars become heavier, faster, more powerful, etc., etc., then there is this thing, if you have that restriction in place, but also so much power, you can only exploit a limited amount of that, the full potential of the car or the motorcycle, in most cases, and therefore it's more interesting to go for a very lightweight, pure type of sports car instead of the over-the-top, very powerful, heavy sport car, in my opinion, because you can still experience the exhilarating drive, the pure driving emotion, and you can also exploit more of the potential more of the time. So therefore I think, and I'm driving now, the Suzuki Swift Sport, which gives you more miles a mile, even at my Tesla Model S, if you stay within the legal limitations. That's crazy, that Tesla Model S had over 500 horsepower and could have 0 to 100 in 4.2 seconds, something like that. So it was very nice type of sports car. Of course it is nice, and you can still accelerate to that 100 km an hour. But it's also that you oftentimes, because of the traffic intensity as well, that you cannot exploit it. You just using 5 to 10%, and the Swift Sport I can easily use 30% or even 40% in many occasions, which gives you more thrills in my opinion. Also the thing is that electric cars are still beneficial as a sports car in the Netherlands because they are not taxed by BPM, which is a carbon output tax, an additional tax next to the value added tax that you already have. But also cars that are quite light and fuel efficient. This Swift Sport now has the hybrid extension. Also have benefits there because they are light, which benefits fuel consumption, and therefore also the BPM is decreased. But also because the hybrid system, which is a very elementary type of hybrid, but it does work, is a 48 volt smart hybrid system. And it does decrease CO2 emission and thereby the BPM tax. That's beneficial as well. Right? It's not only that you use less fuel, but also you have the benefit that you don't have to pay as much BPM as you would otherwise have to. So those are some great advancements that have been made. And should also be considered because, in my opinion, I would love to drive a 911, but I would not love to pay value added tax of over 25,000 euros even for a base level 911, and also for a base level 911 then pay over 40,000 euros of BPM in addition to the net price of the car. That's just nonsense in my opinion. This car costs 4,000 euros in BPM, which is 1/10 of that of the base 911, whereas the base 911 does not have more CO2 emission, not double the amount of CO2 emission as this car has, but then it is already tenfold of BPM, so it's such an intense, staggering way, and it is increasing and increasing. So in time, in my opinion, where we are going to as performance car enthusiasts in the Netherlands, if you want to have a new car, or you're obliged to have a new car because of your job or whatever, and also the fuel emission zones, the gasoline emission, the exhaust emission zones that we are now also getting increasing and increasing. You need newer type of cars. So what you need to do then is get a car that is as fuel efficient and fun to drive as possible. And how do you get that? Because those are oftentimes two things that cannot be combined. Get a car that is as light as possible. Because light cars are more fuel efficient, of course, because they don't have to lug around all that additional weight. So that's a benefit, more fuel efficient. You get less BPM, so the CO2 tax, which is a major part of many of car price that you have to pay from the dealer. And you have the benefit of less road tax, so 3 benefits already. And the 4th benefit is because they are so light, they can still have the same type of engine. So then the power to weight is increased, which gives you still decent acceleration, might not be sport car type of acceleration, but also because they're so light, they're so easy to maneuver. So you have a very playful type of car. So those 5 reasons are very important to get a very light car. So electric car or very light ICE internal combustion engine car, so diesel or gasoline. And hybridization can also help tremendously, of course, because in the simulated environment where they think about the amount of fuel needed and also CO2 emitted, if a large part can be bridged in that simulation by electricity, this will decrease the BPM again. So not only fuel emission is great then. My wife now drives a BMW 330e, which is a plug-in hybrid. So for many tasks around the house and also part of driving to work can be done pure on electricity, which is beneficial because electricity is approximately half the price of fuel, gasoline for example. But also you have a lower road tax, which is half in her case as compared to a car of the normal weight. And she has for the longer distances still a gasoline engine that she can just exploit. So very easy to fill up, quick and easy process, which is of course extremely beneficial. And because there is still a hybrid system. If you release the throttle, it tries to recuperate a lot of the energy. So that keeps the warping of the brakes at bay, and also once that energy is recuperated, it can also give it back to the system, which decreases fuel consumption again. Well, I hope this has illustrated what I wanted to convey to you, and perhaps it gives you some interesting thoughts also for your own market if it's not the Netherlands, because I think this is a trend both in the Netherlands but also European Union wide and also outside that. Many regions are now trying to reduce fuel consumption, especially the pollution that the cars can give by taxing CO2 emission. Hope this helps. Foundering car out. So this foundering car will give you maximum driving pleasure and practicality combined for the euros that you spend, and we will focus on new cars in the Netherlands. So you will find a lot of similarities also in the other European Union type of countries, and perhaps even outside that, but it's focused now with the pricing on the Netherlands, because I have to start somewhere and I'm living there. So what is the cheapest way to have fun? There are three cars to consider here. The cheapest brackets are approximately 20,000 euros or a little bit above, which are at this moment the Hyundai i10 N-Line. And why is that? They have, all these three cars have a 1 liter 3-cylinder turbo engine. That's the lightest embodiment that Hyundai offers an engine in. So that's a good way to start. And also with the N-Line you still have some of those N type of fun. Especially because the i20N and the i30N are not being delivered or are limited to a great extent in the Netherlands. This is a good way to enter that region. Another car you could consider is the VW Up GTI, which is also a nice car and also has a 1 liter 3-cylinder engine. I don't like about that Up that they didn't make a good attempt, because they didn't change the seats, for example, and it just feels a lot like Up with some details living on that GTI heritage, but not really. And if you only change the fabric of the car instead of the car itself, this is not something I would really like. But okay, still it's an easy way to go into the GTI bracket of VW, so I will give you that, and it's a fun car to begin with. Another car that you could consider is a little bit more pricey is Fiesta of Ford, and then the ST line, which combined with the 1 liter 3-cylinder turbo engine, that's also good, and that gives instead of that of the VW Up, which is 115, the N-Line i10 is about 100, and this is about 125 horsepower, but it's combined with a hybrid system which decreases the BPM tax, and the BPM tax is a carbon output tax, so CO2 tax, so to say. So that's beneficial because it also lowers the price then. And this is a nice car. You can get it in 5-door configuration. All those cars that I mentioned can be got in the 5-door configuration, which makes it practical, of course. So that's a good thing to consider as well. And then you go into the car that I really like. And why is that? The other three cars that I mentioned don't have disc brake at the back, and they're also quite heavy for what they are. But if you look at the Swift GTI, in the past was a very light car, and also Swift Sport were also a light car. But now they made a car that's even lighter than the earlier generation, which is the current generation Swift Sport, and I now have the hybrid version. Hybrid version decreases the BPM tax, of course, decreases fuel consumption, which is a benefit as well, and you save a little bit of the brakes because it will recuperate some energy instead of just wasting it in heat and brake dust. Another benefit is that you can also have more torque because the electric engine spools up in the lower RPM already. So you have a very nice car, very torquey, even more torquey per kilogram than the current Cooper S of Mini. So that saves a lot. And there's a 2-liter turbo engine, which is considered quite powerful. Okay, but I'm sidestepping. That's there, and it only gives you a very limited amount of additional weight because it's a mild hybrid system. So instead of very heavy batteries and additional configurations that are needed for an electric conversion, especially the batteries, you have a very light setup. So even if some batteries go wrong, you can easily replace them because they are both light and perhaps also quite cheap. So that's the thing that I would consider. Another thing to consider is if you really want to go that more of a fuel economy style practical car which still has some driving fun, you could look at the Yaris. The Yaris hybrid especially, because that's not that costly in the Netherlands. You have an automatic system if you like that. 1.5 hybrid engine is quite good. You also have 115-ish horsepower combined with the electric engine. A lot of torque. And you can get them with some GR packages which are offering good seats and also some details. So that could be something to consider. But that's sidestepping again. I would really recommend the Swissport because it's an extremely light car, and light is right in this case. So you will see this to the entire list that I will propose, not including the full electric cars that I will also mention some, and plug-in hybrid, because those batteries will just give additional weight. But the benefits with those cars is that you have lower BPM, so you get a lot of performance, a lot of car for your money. So then if you go to the higher brackets, the i20N is not delivered in the Netherlands, but in Belgium this could be the case to consider as well. We do have the Fiesta ST, which is a nice car in itself and comparable. So 1.5 liter turbo, 3-cylinder, which is very nice. Good engine, about 200 horsepower, and in a similar price range you could also consider something that I would really recommend if you're only with 2 persons max, which is the Mazda MX-5, also known as the Miata or the Roadster, which is a very nice car. And even with the base engine, the 1.5 liter engine, you will have a lot of fun. And why is that? The 1.5 liter is quite revvy and you don't need that much for it, especially because it is also cabrio. So you can still enjoy the weather. It's the lightest car, it's the cheapest car of the MX-5 range, and still a very nice way to start. Of course, 2 liter with 186 horsepower would be a lot nicer. Okay, that being said, we can move on. If you go into the more expensive range, I would recommend plug-in hybrids. And you can look at Volkswagen Audi group for that, but also at BMW and Mini. They have some very nice plug-in hybrids. So for the VW, Audi, Seat, Skoda types, they have a 1.4 liter turbo petrol engine combined with a plug-in system, electric engine, and then you can have about 200 horsepower, even up to 225, something like that, which is enough. If you're interested in Seat, you can even go for the Cupra, which looks fantastic in many details, and it's not that much more pricey than the Seat version, and often has a little bit access to the RS GTI type of performance that is not accessible for Seat anymore. And I would recommend the station wagon version of the lightest configuration, so that would be Golf, Skoda, Skoda Octavia, station wagon again. In RS configuration, I would really recommend it. And then you also have the same with, for example, Seat with the Leon ST, or the better still Cupra Leon Cupra station wagon. But those are the things to consider. But also very interesting is, in my opinion, the Mini Countryman. And why? I would never promote it. I like the Clubman a lot more because you get a lot more room, or the regular Mini, but they don't come with the plug-in variety which the Countryman has. and that means the BPM is reduced enormously, and therefore you get a lot more fun and other benefits for your car. Also, Countryman is one of the highest cars in my list, so you could consider that also if you want to have a car that is sits a little bit higher, easier to access if you are older, for example, or have some limitations there. Still a very nice, funky looking car which you could consider. And all of these cars are around 40,000 euros up to 50,000 euros in the more expensive versions. And for that price you could also get access to the BMW 320e. So this is the smaller nephew of the 330e, and yeah, that's a lot cheaper to access, of course. 330e is better, but once you tune them, the difference is not that much anymore. So if you are already knowing that you will tune them, and they are both very tunable, I would really recommend also the 320e, which is easier to access, and also in the estate version, station wagon. So those are some recommendations. You could also go for the Audi A3 Sportline, which sits a little bit between station wagon and the regular hatchback. So it could be, if you like the Audi brand a little bit more, but I would recommend Leon and Golf variant, Leon ST Golf variant, and the Octavia Estate above them, because they offer you a lot more room. So those are some cars to consider. Also, if you're looking at the extreme low price bracket, you could also consider a turbo engine, 1.2 liter turbo engine in the Dacia. So with Dacia you get a tremendous value for your money, and if you want an estate but you're strapped for cash, you could also look in that region, and then you would be approximately, with the Logan and Fabia, you will be very well off, far below 20,000 euros. So that might be the best bet in an extreme low budget. Of course, you get also less technology advancement, but something to consider. Going back in the higher brackets, so 50, 60,000 euros, you could look for the 330e in a base spec, or a Golf R type of car, but those are already getting to the higher bracket, so they are not attainable at the price level. So up to 60,000 euros, there's only one candidate that's really very interesting, but it's not, you will not be able to get one anymore, I think. It's a Yaris GR. So the Yaris GR is an homologation special of the Yaris. The Yaris normally is a 5-door, and the GR is a 3-door. So it also has a lowered roofline specifically only for this car, which makes it very expensive for what you are getting. But why do I recommend it then, if you want a lot of bang for your buck? If you are going to resell them because they are so limited, you will have very low deduction of value over time. So you can compensate a little bit there. And also it's the lightest incarnation where you can get that extremely nice 1.6 3-cylinder of Toyota with 260-ish horsepower and 4-wheel drive, which is very fantastic. You are not getting the GR Corolla, which is the pity, otherwise it could also be considered. And for that price range you could also consider the Civic Type R, which is also a very nice 5-door car with extremely good performance and nice driving characteristics, and also good quality. A little bit above that, so 60 to 70,000 euros, I would recommend Alpine A110, which is a very light car, which is also tremendous special flavor. It only seats 2, so like the MX-5, it is a nice car to consider. In my opinion, nicer than its rival, which is also more perfected, the Cayman of Porsche. So I already walked through quite a lot of cars, but also in this price bracket, and this is quite silly in my opinion, the long range Model S of Tesla is also sitting in the price range between 60 and 70,000 euros, and offers you 500, or even now in the latest incarnation, 600 horsepower and a 0 to 100 of 3.2 seconds, which is McLaren F1 territory. Can seat up to 7 person, and has the same room inside of it as an A6 estate. And this is the car to get. Also, it has a yoke steering wheel. You can love it or hate it, but it feels a lot more special than the little brother, the Model 3 or the Model I, which are more modern in the earlier version. But now the Model S has a facelift and has been developed again. And I think that's where your Tesla money should go instead of the lesser varieties. So you get an enormous amount of room. You get a special type of car. 600 horsepower on tap. You can have similar performance in the Model 3 Performance, and which is also a little bit lighter, but has less horsepower and a similar price almost. So it's not that big of a difference in my opinion. If you go for the lower version of the Model S, they could compete, of course, with the other cars that I mentioned, and could be a better bet than, for example, the Type R of Civic and the Yaris GR that I mentioned before. So a baseline Model 3 or Model 3 long range is enough money for your buck. Not enough performance for your buck, in my opinion. Also, all those performance versions of Tesla, you have to switch some buttons to go and get them into this performance mode, which is not that nice. So this is the first part of the series. I will stop it now and we'll come back to it later. So this is the series about very nice bang for the buck in all price regions. We already discussed up to 100-ish, 1,100k euros in the Netherlands, and then we start from that area again. So around 100k euros or a little bit below, you can already have a Model S Performance which has about 1,000 horsepower, and it's just insane. I would advise that car over all the ICE cars, because the ICE cars might be more pure, but this gives you so much value for the money. A little bit over that you could get towards the BMW M3 or the BMW M2, which are very nice cars. M3 would be around 140,000-150,000 euros, and above that I would recommend the 911 base model, which has sufficient performance already. Also, the M3 can now be ordered, and M2 maybe also, with X-Drive, which makes him essentially all-wheel drive, which was always the benefit of Audi above that. Other runner-ups are the AMG A45S or the Audi RS3 in this region, but I think you can have almost the same fun with the lesser version, and you can still tune them. So also the same with the RS3, you already have an S3 there, which is good tunable, and the Golf R, which is even more attainable. And the same with A45S, there's an A35, and if you have still the all-wheel drive version, you can tune upwards the same performance for a lot less money. So those are some things to consider. I hope you really like this video series. Foundering car out. So another foundering car. Just had a presentation of the opening of a lab of a friend and a business colleague. He really made an excellent progression. In 70 years he turned it into an astonishing new revelation. So much work has been done, but also where he is standing now with such a good team, such a good innovation, and very sleek presentation, and a very nice lab as well. Such a beautiful thing to see someone succeed that you know that has worked so hard, and you know also yourself, you know them on a personal level, and also see the people around them benefiting and also being very proud of the success that he has made possible. And in his wake also other people made quite a success. Some may even have a bigger success, but what he did today was really fantastic. They all prepared of course for this, but it was such a sleek, nice and a good presentation. Not only the speech and the presentation that he held there, together with his team, and all the facets of his work and of their work, the teamwork, so to say, were really good brought to life. All the specific disciplines, but also such a nice lab, a totally glass lab for demo purposes, and also nice that he has the state-of-the-art technology, and even the little dining snacks that they had were such in a lab, how do you say this, brought into a lab context with dry ice and all other very nice fancy stuff, and also the people serving you in lab coats with the safety goggles on. Such a beautiful thing. It really made my heart very proud of what he succeeded in, and also, yeah, you want your comrades, you want your peers to be successful. I never get it that there are some people that are a little bit envious when someone is reaching a pinnacle. Of course, you might also want to have that, but why would you be jealous that you do not want your peers to succeed or be better than you? I think it's a very nice thing. If you have people around you that are successful and already reached some success, that's a better thing than that you're the best one of your group all the time. You cannot be the best one of your group all the time, because you want to learn something. If you're the smartest, if you're the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. Found my car out. So the sun is now setting slowly, which gives a great ambience for the driver enthusiast. In my opinion, I think this is such a nice moment of the day to drive. I also really like the sunrise, because you get all those colors and you're driving, and then you have a destination, but there's also so much happening there that it really gives you the sensation. It's hard to put into words, but the sensation that you're really traveling, and the change of scenery, so to say. And that's so magnificent in this twilight zone that you go between states. That's such a beautiful thing. I really love that. I also really love the roads when they are meandering, so going from one side to the other, and they are just begging you to be driven, especially on the back roads. But sometimes you also have like this very nice pieces of highway that are so much going from one direction into the other, and that you can get quite a good cornering speed in, and you feel the G-forces pushing you. Of course, the engine is still not warm, so you're not exploiting it to full extension and within the gears, but you still can really enjoy it on waves of torque, like this little car has, the SUZUKI Swift Sport. There's even more torque per kilogram than the Mini Cooper S, which has a 2-liter very torquey engine with 280 Nm, and this is 230, 235 Nm, but it's so much lighter, the car, that per kilogram you have a better torque to weight ratio. I hope that you enjoy the view for yourself. It's hard to show it to you because, of course I'm driving, but otherwise I'm driving now through fields and see the sun slowly sinking in. That's such a beautiful thing, and I know, because I have quite a trip to make, almost 200 kilometers from where I am now, that I can enjoy all this coloration that will come to you, and you can just savor them and then enjoy them, and really love the amount of colors and the tints and the different lighting. And also the traffic will change, because now there are still some people driving home from work, but it will decrease and decrease, and then you're almost alone on the road with some other people that are still driving, so you feel connection with those people, but you really can enjoy the roads for yourself almost. Hope you liked this little video. Found my car out. So this video is about the safety system that are incorporated in the model year 2020 and onwards Suzuki Swift Sport, which is different from the Suzuki Swift Sport of the same generation, both being ZC33S, but the non-hybrid version, because they didn't have all the safety features. And what kind of safety features am I talking about? There's anti-collision warning, so it will even have an emergency braking system, which I had this morning because I had to wave to traffic in the street that there was a car that perhaps would hit me head on, and I had to wave, of course, through the other part, because all the cars were parked like a zigzag pattern, as you can imagine. And then I think, yeah, you can switch it off, eh? That's the good thing, you can switch it off in the Suzuki Swift Sport. But then I thought, okay, it goes full in the brakes and full tilt mode, whereas you can still easily control that. But of course, this would have saved you if you were sleeping or something else occurred, or traffic in front of you is waving in your lane. This could be beneficial. So I understand it, and I also understand that now you hear another beep, because it could have been that the other car would go into my lane. So it will also beep if there's some movement in the lane that you want to go, but the other car was already going out of the lane. And also other safety features. So for example, if you cross the markings of your lane, it will also give a sound or show you something. And you can even make it tremble and steer you back if you try to have the lane keeping assist in. It will also accelerate and brake when you use adaptive cruise control. In my opinion, the normal cruise control is oftentimes already very good. So I don't have that much need for the adaptive one, but it has benefits, because if you combine adaptive cruise control and lane keeping assist on the highway, it essentially will drive itself to a degree. Of course, now and then it will ask again about if you are driving, are you really active and or do you know what is happening, but it will take a lot of the work out of your hands. It can also offer you some benefit if you have to look at something or look at the map or whatever. This is beneficial, of course. So I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with these systems. I think sometimes, almost always, if you're a good driver, they are overzealous, these systems. But on the other hand, even a good driver can have a bad day, and then it is beneficial that you have an additional safety net. And the benefit, as I mentioned, you can switch them off, and you can switch lane keeping assist off, you can switch off parking assist, you can switch off anti-collision warning. I think even emergency braking can be turned off. You can also switch off the auto start-stop system. So there are a lot of things that you can just switch off, including traction control as well. Traction control will help you when there's little traction, so it will limit the output the engine gives to the certain wheels. So you have only two wheels that the traction is on, out of both front wheels. But it's an additional safety feature that will help you prevent slip. And also have a little bit more fluency there. Found my car? Out. So next to the safety features that most people know, like anti-collision warning, emergency braking, this car, the Suzuki Swift Sport Hybrid, also has some additional features. So in your mirrors you see when you're trying to overtake or you want to switch lanes, if you're overtaking and the other car is still in the blind spot or is in the lane beside of you, it will give an indication in the mirror. So to the right you see to the right what's happening there, and to the left you see to the left. If there's something, even if it's outside the mirror, it will show it to you if it's functioning, and it does. Another benefit is that they also have a monitoring system when you're driving backwards, so in reverse. You have, of course, your camera system, you have your parking sensors, which is oftentimes seen in a lot of cars. But it also gives you a rear traffic crossing alert. So if someone is on the lane, so you're driving like this, backwards, and if someone in the lane that you're trying to drive into is some passenger, could be a child or someone on a bike. So that's lane crossing assist, also from the backward view. So if someone is not in your scope of your camera or in your scope of your rear view mirror, but is already on the lane that you try to access, it will alert you, which is very beneficial. So there are a lot of safety features, which these two I really like. And I also like a car that gives you, for example, some lighting effects. I don't like the beeps so much, but they are of course there. So for example, if you fell asleep or whatever, it's there to trigger you, to get your alert again. So that's the mechanism behind that, and the rationale behind using all those beeps, which are oftentimes overzealous but can help you to just prevent wars. Foundering car, out. So this is another foundering car video, and the question is, if money was no object, which car would I drive? My perfect car in a lot of situations was the Tesla Model S, but if money was no object, the Tesla Model S is extremely fast, extremely good accelerating, extremely good attraction, and also offers a lot of space that you can take a lot of stuff or people with you. If money was no object and also the seating position was no object, I would opt for the Porsche 911 Turbo S. And why not the GT3 or GT2? I like the all-wheel drive system. I think that's very nice. Turbo S is the overlord with the four-wheel drive systems. GT3 is naturally aspirated, which sounds beautiful. If I would go for the GT3, I would not go for the RS, but the GT3 Touring, because then you have a car with all the benefits but still a back seat, and it is a little bit more subtle. I don't like the enormous big wings, and also the subtle effect of the Turbo S is more close to my heart. I like also the shape of the car a lot more without that extremely big spoilers on it, and still has all-wheel drive. So you have superior traction, you can use it every day, you still have a back seat that you can take two people with, small people, that must be said. And you have of course the passenger seat, so you can transport with that car 4 people at most at one time. But if more from a personal view, if you look at what my personal situation now would be, it will be either Tesla Model S or Audi RS6. And the Audi RS6 has a lot of benefits. Of course, Tesla Model S gives you a lot more bang for your buck, because in the Netherlands you don't get robbed blind by BPM, but money was no object. And the Audi RS6, there goes an XKR of Jaguar, also a fantastic, nice car. But the Audi RS6 also gives you a lot of performance, all-wheel drive also, but you have a lot of storage because it is an estate and you don't have to charge it all the time. But the Tesla Model S, even though it might have some bang for the buck over the RS6 and money was no object, there's also something that you never have to visit a petrol station again. So of course, filling your car with petrol gives you flexibility and is very fast, which is beneficial. But it's also beneficial that you never have to charge at a gasoline station anymore. You can just charge at home or at the superchargers. This is also very nice, but yeah, a little bit less flexibility of course. And I also like the roar of the Audi RS6 a lot more. And you still have a roomy 5-seating arrangement with a big estate functionality. So that would be my money no object car, and perhaps I would do a little bit of a tune to it to even get it faster as it is standard. But even in stock form, it's very, very nice. Hope this helps. And you might think, why not other more exclusive or exotic supercars? I do like them, but I also want some functionality that I can use them instead of only on certain occasions. And the cars that I mentioned still have some practicality and also are quite reliable. There's also benefits. Instead of Italian racing Italian stallion type of thing, but also not that reliable. I don't like it that much. I want some reliability as well. Have a great day. Foundry car out. So another foundry car, and today we will discuss fruits. So this was strawberry, and we will discuss low-hanging fruits. So as you can see, I have easy access to this fruit, this strawberry. It makes it very beneficial and easy achievable, and still very good source of energy. And it's the same with low-hanging fruits. A low-hanging fruit in the business sense is that you can reach out to it in easy wins, and those easy wins you should always try to chase, so that you can get the benefits of that low-hanging fruits in your system. Example. So for example, you have a business that works in the medical field, like the business that I'm involved with at the moment, which is a business involved in IVF. And if you can then have an additional clinic involved with your desk, that's a low-hanging fruit. So you already have your system, a clinic is enjoying it, they have reaped the benefits of your innovation, and then you add another clinic to that. So that's a very easy example of low-hanging fruit. But another example could be that, for example, you predict embryo implantation, but perhaps you can also predict something else that's beneficial to those same IVF clinicians. So you could think of additional ways that there are within the reach that you already have, or close by, so you don't have to overreach, you don't have to invest all the time or efforts or resources to get there, but they are achievable, very easily achievable, and they offer oftentimes very good nutrients for you to savor, so additional success, which also feed your company so that they can have the higher goals. That you, for example, if you're climbing a mountain, if you already can have the low-hanging fruits, the lower phases of that mountain conquered, it will be far easier to also challenge the remaining part of the mountain. Whereas if you still are not achieving that lower hanging fruits and the lower parts of the mountain, and you want to go for the top in one go, it will be far harder to do so. In the analogy of the mountain, oftentimes they have mountain huts, so even if you make it to part of it, you can already rest again and feed yourself with some calories, and then the water, for example, and then proceed. That's the lesson that I try to convey here. If there are some things that you can easily do which will directly benefit your company, I would always advise you to do so, because it will make your company a lot stronger and also your position a lot stronger, and thereby also those longer reaches more attainable, better achievable, and you will have a better chance of making those. Whereas if you directly reach for the top, you might be successful, but you might also not be successful. Whereas with the low-hanging fruits approach that I mentioned, you will be successful. You might be not as successful directly, but you will also advance your position towards the top position that you want to go. And please remember, a low-hanging fruit is something that's achievable, but also very beneficial. It's a treat when you get there. Foundry car out. So hello, another foundry car, and today we will discuss a new phenomenon for many entrepreneurs, which is called growth hacking. So growth gives you a little bit of insight what the purpose is, you want to expand, and hacking you want to do it in an innovative, experimental, new way that's more efficient than the normal way. For example, hacking a system They have access to it, so it will be easier. It will be made easier. We had computer games, and in the past, of course, there were hacking codes which gave you a superstar status, or for example, gave you at an earlier stage of the game when you haven't had passed all the milestone points, already access to the later levels, for example. And that's a little bit what growth hacking is. So, why is it important? Of course, every company wants to grow, and by growing you have less change of the hours that the founder, for example, puts in as a relationship to the income it generates. So if it grows, you have other factors, could be other people in your company or other income streams, that will just attribute to the success of the company, and thereby also the success of you as an entrepreneur. And by growth hacking, you might do things in a different way, also the existing things that you already do, so that it saves you more time, so more efficient, for example. And when you have more time, you have also more possibilities to go to another direction and become again very innovative, and then you can unlock another potential income stream, but also broaden your company and the benefits that you can sit upon. The foundation of your company can become broader and more stable. So that's very important, of course. Growth hacking is oftentimes a term that many people associate with marketing, so conversion rates, for example, is it able that you can convert clicks on a website into more buying results, or when you display your advert or your marketing material, that you get more response to it. So first of all, more clicks, so the exposure is translated into more clicks, that you get more in-depth exposure, and then, for example, also more buys. There's one example that you can grow in to make it more effective, and thereby granting you more income and therefore more possibility and more time also. That's just one example, but I think even we call it ZZP, zelfstandige zonder personeel. So it means that you're self-employed without having other persons in your company, just you. Even self-employed people without personnel can benefit of this growth hacking, because you can look at different directions, and sometimes that growth hacking is even, instead of looking at more directions, looking at less directions. That might sound contradictory, right? But perhaps your real passion is doing one thing, and now you're just doing all the things that you can to get some income, because I want to do this one thing, but I need all those other things to just survive. But perhaps focusing on that one thing will bring you more income than doing all those other things. And why is that? Because you're good at it, you have passion for it, and you like to do it, so you don't mind to go the extra mile. You want to make it close to perfect. And if so, there's an example. For example, you're a writer, and you're writing for all kinds of journals, perhaps even papers, and also for hospitals and manufacturers, etc. But your real passion lies there to make, for example, patient leaflets, and to convey the message of a company into material on the website. Perhaps if you focus on that, you can triple the income that you generate at this time, when you're doing all kinds of things, because you have a focus and you're good at that, and one success leads to another, and then you are in your respective fields the expert, the go-to. And that's the trick. In that example, sometimes also reaching out. You already have one trick, and you can have some low-hanging fruits that makes it better. You can analyze the process. Where can I improve to make it more efficient, faster, more beneficial for my customer? And also sometimes, if you have already had a lot of experience, perhaps you are able to increase your rate. Even if you're one person, or the rate of your personnel. You can also hire new personnel if there's a growth area. And a lot of people did that also with COVID. Those companies that went anti-cyclic, so the cyclic ones went down also with COVID, but some companies went anti-cyclic. They grew a lot during the COVID pandemic. And then they had additional personnel, but they didn't know if they could maintain that level. So they had it on a flex rate. So the personnel was attracted, then they hit the targets that they want to get, benefited the company. And if it then collides all, because the market demand changes or some other players jump in that are just so big that they will blow you out of the water, you still have the flexibility that you can then adapt again to a smaller core that perhaps you were before that the trends changed and an opportunity arose. But you will have more flesh on your bones because you made do with the trend, and you benefited from it. So you grew. Even if the personnel is back to the same core, you have more means, you have more experience, you're already we're successful in scaling up very rapidly. And that are lessons that are very valuable, of course. So, a long story short, there are many ways to growth hack. I think you should not only think at the marketing sides, also the operations can be growth hacked, or the customers that you try to reach. This is also a little bit marketing, of course, but also the innovations. So not only the process, operations, the customer base, but also innovation. What can you do? What can you do to improve upon your products? Make it faster, better, stronger. You know that song. And that's growth hacking. Founder in Car, out. So another founder in car, and today we will discuss my favorite car brands and why. I have some car brands that you might not think that are that good, but I will also show you and talk you through why I think those car brands are very nice. One of the car brands that I really like is Porsche. I also like Suzuki, and that might be a little bit different. I like Abarth as a brand a lot, and I like Mini, and I like also Dacia. So I will just leave it at those 5 brands for now, because that's easy. I had a very big passion with Honda, which I still like, so that could be the bonus one, the 6th one. So first of all, why do I like Suzuki? Suzuki, I drive now Suzuki Swift Sport. I had in the past a Swift GTI, so that's one of the first generation sporting Suzukis. I also had 2 Ignis Sports, HD81S is the code name. This was in Japan also named a Swift Sport, but in Europe it was an Ignis. And I'm now driving this latest incarnation of the Suzuki Swift Sport, the hybrid. So I have quite a passion with this brand, and that gives you a little bit of background. But what do I really like about Suzuki? They are very reliable. The current car I get 6 years of warranty. It gives you a lot of insight about reliability. They are not overpriced, but they offer a lot of functionality and a lot of options that a lot of other cars you will pay thousand euros, and they have one main focus point, and that I like the most. The main focus point is to have a simple system that really works in real life conditions. For example, this Swift Sport has a hardtack platform, which makes it lighter, stiffer, and also more roomy, while the external dimensions are not that much increased, which is fantastic. How many manufacturers make their car like that? More simple, stiffer, and still all the additional hardware for safety features, etc. can be plugged in, and you have a lot of interior room with minimal exterior dimensions. And the lightness is such a good thing. if you compare this with other cars, this is 995 kilograms, and this is very heavy Swift Sports of this generation because it already had the hybrid system in. Then you look at the hybrid system, look at the Toyota Yaris, also say B segment like the Swift, but it's so much heavier. It's easy, almost 200 kilogram heavier. It also has a hybrid system. It has less horsepower. So what happened here? It then also does not have a turbo and intercooler like this Swift Sport does have. So what they did, they only added what is really needed on the hybrid system. So a very small battery and a very small electric engine. That keeps the weight down. It's very simple. And the interior room is even better, especially at the back compared to the Yaris, while the car is a lot lighter. They have instead of the system that is applied in the Yaris, it's also very functional. It's an Atkinson cycle engine, which is really good in a hybrid system. It can really easily be shut off and started again. But this is, as an electric engine, is not an intrusive part. You just have the drive excitement. You don't have that shift between electric engine and internal combustion engine as you have in the Yaris. And you have a 6-speed gearbox, which I like also a lot. So driving pleasure is at the heart of this car, and they have this focus for the Swift. And it should be a joy to drive. And they have other cars that have a completely different focus field. But all of the cars in the current Suzuki lineup and also the past very often are very light. So you get a lot of fun out of that. That I really like about it. Next to all the other points are already addressed. Then Dacia. Why do I like Dacia? Dacia is not a sexy brand, and you would be right. I think it's one of the most boring brands in many dimensions. But what they offer is tremendous value for money, a no-nonsense approach. And I think nowadays we are paying so much for simple transportation. There's a very nice breeze of fresh air. So therefore I also nominated Dacia. And you get a lot of car for your buck. And they even now have turbo engines. In the past I like the 1.6 110 horsepower engine also a lot. So those are two. I also mentioned Abarth, the Scorpion branded car manufacturer. It's just a Fiat with really big balls, so to say. And they had two models. I think they still have one, the 121, which is a Fiat stake on the Mazda MX-5, which was developed jointly, and it has a 1.4 turbo engine instead of the naturally aspirated engines the Mazda has. And of course the turbo, like this in the Swift Sports, offers tremendous tuning potential, which is beneficial. And also it has its own identity. And then when you look what Abarth made out of it, it turns the sound on 11. It's so brutal. The sound of an Abarth is in its class so magnificent, which I really like. And also they have the branding. How sexy can it be? We talked about non-sexy with Dacia, but Abarth oozes just sexuality to me. The Scorpion logo is spot on, very nice, and they have it around the car. It's not a specific type of Fiat, it's just an entirely different brand. And if you look what they did with all those special versions of the 500 that they now call the 595 or 695, etc. And they even made the Biposto with what's like 60,000 euros or more in the Netherlands for a 500, a glorified 500 with only 2 seats. You must love them. They had a dog box into it. They have this very nice shifting patterns, such high-tech materials. But in its essence, it is a far less competent car as you compare it to this Suzuki Swift Sport. It has 5 doors, it's even lighter, and you could also tune that to the moon, and then you have a better car. In my opinion, but I really like the brand Abarth. I like the logo, I like the branding. They make it stiff, they make it loud, they make it just mischievous, which is I really like. I also like the adverts that they make, the marketing. I really love this small company that has such a nice, stingy taste that they just deliver. from a non-exotic and achievable standpoint, I think you will be hard pressed to be better off to have something exclusive and the experience of a real supercar type of deal than with all watch. So that makes 3. I also mentioned that I like Mini. And why do I like Mini? They have one concept only, Mini, and they make so many models out of them. They have the really nice retail styling, and I think it's just a very nice brand all in. I don't like that they are getting a lot heavier lately, and also the playfulness is now removed to a big degree. I think this is more the spiritual successor than the current Mini of the heyday, because it's more simple, more lightweight, and more cleverly designed. But hey, Mini is Mini, and I think it's a very nice brand. Also, BMW has added over the years a lot of quality to the brand. In the past, they started with Chrysler source engines, then they had a PSA, so Peugeot and Citroën source engine, which I also did not like. But where they are sitting now, with the Cooper with a 1.5 turbo 3-cylinder, which is just the plug and play, because they have only 500cc per cylinder through the entire BMW range, so to speak. And also the 2-liter for the Cooper S and John Cooper Works, which are just magnificent power plants to begin with. So I like that brand as well. So we are up to 4 now, I think. Now remembering what the 5th was. Porsche. Now why do I like Porsche that much? Porsche really makes dedicated sport cars. You can forget the entire different branching of Porsche, because now they lean so much on sport utility vehicles, the Macan and also the Cayenne before that. But the heart and soul of Porsche is the 911, and it was that all over, and that gives you a supercar that can shame many a hypercar, especially in a Turbo S configuration or GT3. I drove the GT3 on the circuit of Assen a whole day, the GT3 RS Carbon Edition, and it was a magnificent car. Really, really so hard on the brakes. Such a visceral experience when you also have such a high revving, naturally aspirated engine. It's just perfect and very light. So for me, when I say Porsche, I will say 911, but I also really feel that the Taycan, which is the electronic version now of the Panamera or 911, something in between, so smaller than the Panamera, which is also a very nice car for a sports sedan, and 911, a real sports car. It's a very nice proposition. So they bring also in the electric car a lot of emotion and functionality. And they will also increase the benefits that Tesla is bringing to the table, because they will keep each other sharp. So those are the 5 brands I really like at the moment. And the 6th one was the bonus one, which is Honda. And I have a very long relationship that I admire Honda because of the VTEC. They had a very high, how do you say this? High output per liter of displacement, but nowadays Honda is not anymore the king of displacements. So horsepower per liter is not longer the strong point of Honda, because they went turbo, and they had for a while over 100 horsepower per liter naturally aspirated form, and now they of course also have it in turbo form. Now the 2-liter pumps out 320 or more horsepower easily, but there are cars like the AMG A45S, which have over 400 horsepower, also out of a 2-liter 4-cylinder. So that makes, and the Honda in my example has 160 horsepower per liter in turbocharged form, whereas AMG A45S Mercedes has now 200 horsepower per liter. So they are no longer the king, and that's because the turbo makes it a lot easier to have high efficiency. displacement. But the revvy nature of Honda I really like, and I also like to point out that they have the Type Rs, which are excellent cars all over. I think this is such an excellent moniker of making a car light, strong and achievable, which really pulls on my heartstrings. Some other cars that brands that I really like include, of course, Tesla. I had them. I think they are very nice in their pioneering role. Also, the supercharging network is spot on, the best of the best. Also, if you look at the efficiency of the drivetrains, they are class leading, and also they have a lot of tech involved. And one more crucial point, they have Elon Musk. Elon Musk is such a magnificent specimen of a human. Is it so many innovations, the leading force, such an excellent entrepreneur. He's out of this world. Sometimes even literally with the SpaceX program, Boring Company, also those the solar program that's now drawn into Tesla again. Yeah, I think he is beyond words, and I would I cannot do him justice in words, but I also like that brand, and I like the brand of Lotus as well, but now Lotus is transferring to Lotus 2.0 and they are leaving the way that they did it for such a long time by adding lightness, to have very light and pure cars. And now they will also produce sport utility vehicles and will go to a heavier proposition, which is something I don't like that much, but hey, it's what it is. Another very small car brand that I really like is Segma. They make cars, so-called cars, more of kit cars, but they're produced in the factory. And I also had a Segma. They make such a nice car. I had a car with 4 wheels, disc brakes all around, so at the front and the back, and weighing only 380 kilograms. It was a Segma, and you could go flat out everywhere. Top speed without tuning was about 110 kilometers an hour, sometimes 120, depending a little bit on the inclination that you have to mitigate. But 110, even when you're going up the hill, was possible. But after the tuning, I think I could be reached 130, 140 kilometers an hour easily, even 500 cc, which was magnificent. Also very nice, pure driving experience. Caterham is a similar type of lightweight approach. Westfield similar. We also have Donkervoort as a Dutch pride. I like the design of Spyker and the TVR very much, but they are not that reliable, and both are almost constantly in a love and death scenario. So living and dying and being loved by the enthusiasts all the time. And another brand that I really like is I was just thinking about it. Now it's lost my mind again. Oh, P now only has one model, the A110, which I really like, also the original version. But that again brings you a lighter weight construction as compared to, for example, the Cayman, which is a competitor of Porsche, which I like a lot. That's a very good way to approach, in my opinion. It brings you so much more driving involvement, even if it's not faster. And another brand, and then I will close this rant, is that I really like. I just had it in my mind, and now it's phasing out a little bit. Yes, there it is again, Mazda. And why Mazda goes anti-cyclic? All manufacturers go towards turbo, and Mazda still has naturally aspirated engines. Only a few turbo engines now. They also made a rotary engine, which is perhaps being reintroduced. So the RX-7, RX-8 are renowned cars that had a rotary engine. Also they had the Cosmos, more of a sport sedan coupe, more seats than the RX-7 and the RX-8. RX-8 had also had suicide doors, which was very nice and out of the box thinking. But if you really look into it, even the entry sport car, the MX-5, also known as the Miata Roadster, is an excellent car. It's in its essence a reincarnation of the Lot Zedong, and they also even used the Lot Zedong plans to make the first cars. But Lotus is an English brand, and then the Japanese perfected and made it reliable. So also that brand specifically pinnacling around that MX-5, Miata, Roadster, whatever you're calling it, is a very nice car brand that I really like. Hope this helps. Have a great day. Found a car out.